Well met, lords and ladies, Jacob Butter speaking, and a warm welcome to this week's Walking Wednesday. I'm going to start this off by saying something that I don't remember if it happened this week or last week. Because I know that last week I mentioned a bunch of things that had a huge update of stuff, so I might have missed out on this detail. Remember how I said I got the key to the school entrance finally? You know, after having to buzz in, unlike the other teachers, potentially. Well, yeah, it turns out that I was allowed, as the language assistant, to get a copy of the key, which I eventually got, thanks to going back and forth to from Consejería to Secretaría, then back again to Consejería because they got it wrong the first time. Yeah. Turns out that mere days after that happened, they actually changed the locks like early in the morning one day before I arrived. And they haven't said why, but then I asked like at the nucleus, like, okay, fine, maybe this is a routine thing they do. There was also a sign that said, please close the door, on the door. Like, the day that it happened, it said, please close the door. But then they asked for like, let's key this, the key again. They said, no, we can't do that anymore. Now it's only going to be the people who are, you know, on guard duty or the actual janitors that will have the key from this point onwards. Which yeah, like and when I left today, there was somebody like standing by the door, like, you know, to let me out, because it was right after choir rehearsal, of course. Well, after the first rehearsal, because later on I got another one. You know, as per the tradition on Wednesday. And yeah, just said, you know, and there was like a big block of wood that said there was you know, said you know, guardia, which, you know, is guardia or guard duty. So and that makes me think, okay, that's something you have to like constantly like hand in, basically. And the reason that I'm worried about that, honestly, is the fact that it implies that something happened. And I don't know what, because again, you know, I barely ever get information until way after everyone else does. That seems to be the MO around here. But yeah, it does seem like something happened, and it happened potentially due to one of the teacher's keys. And I have no idea what that might be. You know, whether or not someone broke in because one of the teachers left the door open, or I have no idea. Or a teacher's key got stolen and someone broke in that way. Yeah, not a clue. But yeah, it does like it is concerning, because like obviously there's no reason they would have changed their policy out of the blue so quickly. The locks changed on that day, so I have no idea. I hope that if anyone was involved in whatever happened, that they're okay. And yeah, I don't remember if that happened this week or last week, because, you know, some things blend together. Then again, this time, not so much of a... Oh wait, no, it was last week, because this week, there was a specific reason that I used the key, or I got to get let in more often than otherwise intended. And that's because, for once, I actually, for the second time actually, I went to the school on Friday. So, to backtrack a second, I don't know if I mentioned that I was planning to do this thing where I want to do like a radio drama series with some of the students in English, like as one of the, you know, extra activities in my, you know, ever proceeding quest to expand their creativity and originality, to counteract the effects of the Spanish education system not fostering those talents or those traits of a human being. Which a quest which, given what I've had to experience this week, it very much corroborates the idea that that is just a dwindling concept. Because like today, actually, before I go back and go forward, today and I guess, well, also like this week in general, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I've been continuing with my Christmas poem idea that I had, because basically the teacher last week asked me to do something about Christmas traditions, and I made a Christmas poem because the presentation was boring otherwise, and also would not have lasted the whole lesson. So the activity was, okay, make 4 lines of a Christmas poem. And I gave an example and everything. But yeah, that's descending to some people, copying poems from online. At which point I just looked up the poem and then, put it back down in front of them. It's like, oh wow, you got caught. It was one of those moments. And other times where it's like, okay, well, and then since it was based on like their traditions, they also have been hesitating and saying like, what things do you do? Like I asked them, what things do you do? And they just look at me blankly. Sometimes they do understand, but it's just a case of, I don't know, they just don't seem to see the value in offering, their own contributions to things. And then of course we asked them to read the poem at the end, very quiet. And yes, this is the youngest set of students for the most part. There was one class I had with slightly older students, but they actually had an exam on that day that the teacher 2 had not accounted for. So I actually didn't get to do the activity with them. Although that does mean I have class with them today, so I'll see how that goes. But yeah, this is why I told teacher 1 last week, oh, that activity will be better for the older students because, yeah, they might be quieter and they might be more indoctrinated into like their own ideas and have less of an imagination about them, but they'll have the techniques a little bit more. If anything, they need something like that more than the other students, I think, because essentially one thing that the welding teacher told me, I don't know if I mentioned this before, was that he was always very saddened about the fact that once you turn 18, as you finish education and whatnot, you go out into the world and then into the workforce where you have to think on your feet a lot more, and you're so used to being told everything and how to do it that you're not able to think on your feet. That's why creative disciplines in schools are so important, and that's why more people than you expect have theatre training, for example, in other regions, apart from the fact that it's a common practice to have a regular, in quotes, job if you work in theatre industry anyway, but also because those skills do come in handy and people do look for them. But yeah, I don't know. So back to what I was saying. So I've been trying to do that this week, but this is why I want to do like the radio thing, because that's outside of classes. That's going to be a constant thing that, in theory, if it goes the way that I'm hoping it will, they will be able to put into practice and bring to life in a way that is unique to them, that's not necessarily tied to a theme of a class or anything, but is also a demonstration of their English, because that's kind of, by obligation, kind of has to be tied to whatever I decide to do with them, basically. I'm sure I'd get a lot more people if I said, oh yeah, we'll do a radio drama thing in Spanish. But no, that's not really, realistically, that's not viable. So yeah, trying to decide where to go, because there's a machine in the way of the path here. I've got railway to the side, path up here that's mainly residents. That thing that was in the way, okay, it's gone now. I'll keep going this way. Anywho, and also I guess imminent train potentially, depending on what happens. Right, I've never seen a speed limit sign for a train before. So yeah, the radio idea. The reason I went to school on Friday was because I hadn't had a chance to prepare the adverts for Thursday, and normally the meetings, what I was told, the meetings that for students happen on Thursdays and Fridays. As it turns out, on Fridays they have a thing that's called Super Vendres, which Vendres is Friday in Gallego, and Super is Super, obviously. Where it turns out we have two student presenters and the teacher presenter who is in charge of the whole thing, obviously. But they have they have like announcements for the day as well in Gallego. But yeah, because I brought my computer over, then I transferred it over. Had to make it an MP3 first because I forgot to change it from WAV files because I'm used to, if I can, using uncompressed WAV files. That's always the best way. And the only reason I send MP3s is because it's, they fit in Discord. Where was I going with this? Oh yeah, so so I converted it to MP3, then send it over, then use the USB drive, put it straight into the hard drive, and then the teacher presenter played the advert, and then afterwards, this is what I was not expecting. Like he asked the students what they thought of it, and they said, it was very well put together, understandable. They liked the music attached to it, which was Frozen World from the Chris Geddes soundtrack, by the way, and essentially, and they had a few questions about it, and all, had like a couple of doubts here and there. To which point they said, oh, okay, well, why don't you ask him directly? So I guess for the first time, ever, I spoke to the entire school in theory, or at least whoever was in the patio at the time in Spanish, because they were talking to me in Gallego, and they were, but I was responding in Spanish because, of course, I was. I'm getting better at Gallego, but not to the point where I'm having a conversation yet, let's say. But yeah, like they were talking to me in Gallego, and they were and they were saying there's like my voice was very clear, it was understandable, even though they didn't understand everything because it was English, so that was kind of a confusing part. They also said that one of them also said like thank you to me for making it so like eloquent, so like okay, you're welcome. So essentially, I got reviewed. I presented something, and then I had a surprise review immediately of said thing. So I know what it's like to be on the other side of that now. I did before. I always enjoy when people watch my stuff and then review it. But yeah, normally I'm expecting it to some degree. It's like, oh, okay, we're analyzing the advert as well, which is fine. And also, since then, I've made a two visual versions. One with just with captions and a waveform and whatnot, and then also one with Spanish subtitles, because I'm essentially, it's kind of like when I revamped Erasmus the Elf, and so like, okay, see who wants to get this new edition, and then no one did because I say, wait, no one did it first because it wasn't updated. Then afterwards I said, well, I wanted the Kindle version, even though I did the paperback, and the Kindle one was fine. So okay, fine, the Kindle version also has been updated, even though it's been reformatted. And they said, oh, wait, no, I want the audio the book version now because I don't want to read it. It's like, well, why don't you tell me that first? Why are you saying this to me now? So yeah, it's kind of like that, where it's like, well, I mean, you just go through the layers. It's like, okay, well, first of all, barrier of just audio happening. Then secondly, I had the captions on, but it was still all in English. So then people still don't understand. So I made the subtitles version now, and then some people still didn't understand because it's like, okay, what are you trying to say here? It's like, well, I mean, there's not much else that I can do apart from just take a few minutes out of the lesson to actually like shout to people. And I say shout because these are, again, the younger students, and therefore they're constantly talking to each other. When you talk about how the COVID generation is different to has different as much reduced attention span and not as good discipline in class, even though it only lasted for a couple of years, they should have had that training already. I don't know why, but that's what the teachers complain about. And yeah, I've seen it for first hand myself to some degree, but only really with that class, at least to that degree. And for the life of me, I don't... I mean, maybe it is just like that particular gap there, and it made me wonder, what would happen in theory next year with the students who have just come up from primary school. Would they've recovered that discipline yet, or would they still have to endure through that? I actually don't know. Yeah, one of those things that I'm wondering about. I know that one of my cousins also mentioned that he taught the COVID generations and how they would do that. Then again, another cousin of mine is in one of those generations, so I wonder what her experience is as a potential participant, but probably not. As a tradition with families, I've seen her report cards, and they are all, always exceptional. So can't really suggest that there's anything going on there, at least not individually. But yeah, so I presented that on Friday, and then I've been doing that since then. And that's the main difference so far. At least now I know. Now I know how long I've got before the holidays end. Well, before the holidays begin, I mean. So we've only got 2 weeks. Essentially, 2 weeks plus Thursday and Friday for now. Before the time comes, which means also 2 weeks to learn all these different choir songs in the multiple languages that they entail. I just got a version of Voici ton chemin with the music notes, even though strangely enough the part that we haven't done yet, the bit at the end where it goes like like that one we haven't actually, it doesn't actually appear on the music notes version that we just got handed. And that's the bit that the director has struggled to impart, and hasn't properly developed that yet with us. Keeps saying, "Oh, we'll do it next week." Today, with all the choir, would be a good chance to try that out. I might suggest that later on. The only reason that I know it is because, again, it used to be my outro song back in the day. And because of that, I've listened to the whole thing, but also because, I've watched Les Choristes, the movie it's from. I studied that in French class. That's why I am still to this day, in nearly every rehearsal, I'm usually asked to pronounce stuff in French so that everyone can hear, which is an interesting thing because, again, I know that a lot of them are studying French currently, and I have not studied French for 8 years, so I don't know about that. It's one of those curious things, I suppose. And I guess now I've got to say that I'm no longer going to be in theory, no longer going to be at every rehearsal for because essentially they say Monday is the baritones, Tuesday soprano ones, Wednesday is the tenors, and then the big rehearsal with everyone, and then Thursday soprano twos. I'm no longer going to be with soprano twos because Thursday should in theory be the rehearsal day for the new radio project, the English Half Hour, the one that I advertised, which I'm hoping means that the soprano twos will manage without my very expert French pronunciation. But yeah, I have no idea what they're going to do. I'm sure they'll be fine. But yeah, I guess there is a difference. Like the director says that I've got a good ear for this stuff. And to be clear, I guess, even though the French I studied was from France, it wasn't Québécois. Bonn has has yet to seriously critique my pronunciation of anything. So I'm guessing that c'est bon. No one's ever made that pun before, clearly. He watches these all the way through. He's gonna chew me out for that one. But yeah. So things are shaking up, but also I guess because there's only 2 weeks left, again, or 3 weeks in general, that we have like one round of rehearsal and one round of potential recording and emission on the last day, or maybe like on the penultimate day. I'm not sure, because on one hand, like, it was called the English half hour because we were supposed to rehearse it 1 week and then, you know, record it the next. But I guess because it's a constant thing and Radio Raka is constantly, like, every single week doing stuff, I'm not sure if we can record at the same time. So it's not like I can necessarily edit these things in post. I might have to do, you know, I might have to find some way to apply Foley effects at the same time, or do like one particular track, you know, while that goes on. I guess the other thing is that, again, I'm not supposed to be alone in a room with them, so I thought if we had like the booth, we could actually use that for rehearsal stuff, but you can hear all of the music even blasting from the playground anyway, regardless of whether or not you know, the sound is muted. Then again, I haven't been in the booth itself yet, so maybe they have, like, you know, dual wave soundproofing. Absolutely not a clue. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. Because this week I was planning to, well, tomorrow I'm planning to work out the logistics and then start the rehearsal record process, which I have just enough time for, and then maybe over the holidays work on some like other scripts based on like what ideas they give me. Because also, it's meant to last half an hour. It was called the English half hour. I might change to the English quarter hour or something. Again, depending on like how the live setting actually works and everything. I don't really know. Because the main times because Radio Reka also has an option for podcasts. So it might be a podcast, maybe the episodes will, you know, air in the playground on a different day, and then you can, you know, catch the rest or catch up with the series, you know, on their website, which I have forgotten the name of now. But yeah, not really sure. But yeah, things are things are a little bit more uncertain for now, but that's because, you know, again, early stages. Like I said to the welding students today when I got them to make Christmas stories, one of them did say starting a story is always the hardest part, which it definitely is. And so it passed it on to another guy, and then he ended up regretting that because you know, the story ended up being you know, a constant dig at the person who didn't start it from the other two. So that didn't work out the way that he expected. But yeah, who knows really. Yeah, I think that's kind of it basically. So I'm gonna, you know, get some lunch right now, potentially work on a backup activity of some kind. Maybe I was gonna have them, the students I got repeat classes for, do a Christmas story, but they might need an extra day of poetry like the ones in the early morning did, because a lot of them hadn't finished. A lot of them still hadn't finished. You know, I've had two whole classes with 4 lines. Again, the creativity thing. Also language barrier, I understand that, but again, like thinking about the combination of the two things, that's what I'm trying to encourage them in certain different ways. And I will not give up that quest. I have not forgotten that last week, one of them immediately volunteered and said they wanted to be in a pantomime, despite me not having any plans to do a pantomime. And now teacher 1 has suggested I do one for Carnival, which, yeah, another thing that I need to have a lot of advanced planning for, and potentially a conversation with the headmaster before the holidays so I can think of what to do for that. But hey, you know, it's the holiday season, plenty of time to get inspired with, you know, by other pantomimes at some point. We shall have to see. I wonder what stuff is on in Madrid that hasn't sold out yet. Ideas for later. For now, I guess please leave a like or dislike because your opinion matters. Oh wait, no, hold on. I guess also I'll say that I was working on like other writing projects in the background too. You know, where I've talked about the fact that Aiden, Vin, and I have teamed up to make something for Chiyumation now. Even though that hasn't come out yet, we want to get ahead of that game. So at some point we'll have some auditions for that. Basically, it's becoming a very bizarre comedy akin to Vin's crazy DM style, with a little bit more of a serious understanding of character motivations behind it from the likes of Aiden and myself. So yeah, and also, you know, we're living up to our promise of The Legend of Foxeline Queen becoming getting an abridged version. We actually wrote half of that yesterday before stream, because it just, you know, it came so naturally the whole way through. So yeah, that might honestly be a thing soon, depending on when we continue that. I think Aiden said he was free tomorrow, so yeah, maybe we'll work on that over the weekend as well, on top of the other things. So okay, now please leave a like or dislike because your opinion matters. Got done this already. And on that note, until next time, farewell.